to give an example, the skepticism or hyper-skepticism that we are illustrating in this particular discussion, have you had a brain scan of your own self? No. Right. So you haven't seen your own brain?
No.
Does your brain exist?
Yeah.
What evidence do you have to suggest that your brain exists?
I don't think it's I don't.
No.
I don't
we just want to extrapolate the reasonings that we use in terms of the level of skepticism that we use in everyday thinking. Have you been to Africa?
Well, where in Africa?
Okay, maybe you have. Have you been to
Africa?
Okay. Have you been to Indonesia?
Egypt is Africa.
Have you been to Indonesia?
Oh, you think?
No.
You mean Nigeria?
Have you been to Indonesia? Indonesia.
No.
Right. Does Indonesia exist?
I don't think you're making sense.
Sorry? No, let's try to understand how we build the level of confidence away from skepticism. No, the reason why I'm using this, look, my friend,
you can do
it is simple
you can do it better than
Can
that.
you Google Indonesia?
I'm addressing what we call skepticism and how we can be certain in affirming something. For example, when we haven't been to Indonesia, we can Google it. So we are trusting the people who put up pictures in Google or description in Google. So you are relying in what we call
beings. Of course, we have to trust.
Look. I don't have a problem with that. Yeah. So you are relying on what we call testimony.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So if we take that principle, testimony is a reliable evidence. So now I say, look, Prophet.
Yeah, that's why I think maybe Jesus exists. Yeah.
No,
Jesus
exists, not maybe. Are you saying maybe or definitely Indonesia exists?
Can you put God in Google?
Definitely. Good. So now, if we find information that's been passed to us by testimony, there are hundreds and thousands of men of God that receive revelation from God as prophets and messengers, and then they said, look, and then we relied and trusted their testimony. So if I rely on their testimony and trust the testimony, and you rely on the testimony of Google, why are you going to be
They're not the same.
inconsistent?
The testimony of Jesus is a different testimony from someone who went to Indonesia.
Absolutely.
That is the point. Please stop being smart.
Say again. Explain that a bit more. Say Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Yes, a testimony of someone who said is a different testimony from someone
who said,
went to
I
Indonesia.
have been.
Please understand this and stop repeating the point.
No. Look, you cannot just simply brush the argument away underneath the carpet.
That's why
the argument, the argument is raised. You have to show how the argument is invalid. I've given you an example about testimony. Like, you have not an image of your own brain. The testimony that you have is other people, their brain scan demonstrates they have a brain. But you haven't done a scan of your own brain. So you have now made, not testimony, do you agree? You have made a generalization based on assumption. That other people, no, this is how your evidence works.
If you go to, if someone tells you that Indonesia exists, you can actually go.
Exactly.
Have you gone there?
Yes.
Wait. Have you, no wait there. Excuse me, have you gone there yet?
Yes.
Has he gone there? You haven't. So that means, you see, listen.
I've been there. Yeah, but
If you haven't been there, that means, for example, have you had a scan of your pancreas?
Why do they have that?
Right. Does your
has nothing
pancreas?
to do with it.
Excuse
We can continue to discuss
No.
about other topics.
Listen.
Have you studied quantum physics?
You should
Little
learn.
bit, yeah.
But it has nothing to do with it.
No, the reason I'm asking is, when we want to understand and affirm the knowledge of something, that yes, I'm certain. Are you certain you have a pancreas?
Probably. Yes.
Are you certain? No. Right. So you're skeptical that you have a pancreas. Do you have a heart? The actual heart, physical heart. Are you certain?
Pounding in my,
Are you certain it's the heart? Have you seen it?
It's a diaphragm.
No.
Exactly. You're not certain. So you're skeptical
So
that you.
Descartes.
Wait a moment, my
Yes.
friend.
You
You're
don't think that
skeptical.
That's the only thing you
Please,
sure of.
you're skeptical that you have a heart or not, you have a pancreas or not. I mean, have you had a brain scan?
No,
yourself?
but everything is
Are you
logical.
skeptical?
If
I can
just
do that.
take
I can do
logical arguments, I can just build myself in this.
Do you see what you're doing now? Instead of bringing hard evidence, let's try to understand the level of evidence you're bringing. Your level of evidence is logical, as you said, logical evidence, assumptions through generalization, testimony. Okay, so are you absolutely certain that you have a brain? There you go. So you haven't got...
I'm not saying that I have one, so I'm not wrong. So far.
Hang on. So when you're speaking to me, you really think that you haven't got a brain.
No, I just don't.
What makes you think you have a brain?
I don't say I have one. I don't say I don't have one. You're just asking me
Okay.
if I think.
Okay, let me ask you. Do you have a brain?
I don't know.
You don't know.
What's your point?
So you might think that you don't have a brain or you have a brain,
I
right?
don't know. I just said I don't know. You're repeating yourself.
No. You really think you don't know, right?
Yes.
Okay, you sound an honest answer.
Yeah.
You honestly think that you don't know whether you have a brain or not.
Yes.
Really? Yes. Very interesting. So when you go, do you work or study?
I work.
Work. In your workplace, do you use your brain?
I don't know. I manage to think.
Right. So what do you use to do all this work? And
My hands. I can
your
see
hands.
them.
Okay. And your hand operates through what? By itself.
I don't know how I use them.
Tell your employee you don't have a brain.
People say it's the brain that determines the
Do you
movements.
need to know if you have a brain to live?
No. Because.
Definitely. So you don't
No,
need to know if you have a brain to be able
But
to use it.
I'm interested
That's
in
the
finding
root of-
out if you don't know you have a brain or not. And scientists are telling us it's the brain that actually regulates our movement and so on. So you
need
think,
to believe their testimony.
do you believe that you have a
I
brain?
don't care.
Do you believe?
I can create a logical construction based on what they're saying and not assume anything in the end. Just until I get a proof that it's correct or not, I can assume that it's correct or not. But if the whole logical construction is working, I can not disprove it.
So now you're bringing this question about logical credibility. If we use logical arguments, it's possible that we can accept it as an evidence. Is that what you're saying? So if someone demonstrates to you through a logical argument,
Construction can be logical and validated.
validated
Doesn't mean that the
means you can accept it.
Doesn't mean that the basement is validated.
You're saying validated means it's acceptable.
Acceptable if the basement is validated.
What do you mean by basement?
The basement of
The
like
premise.
the hypothesis.
The premises.
But
Okay.
if you disprove the hypothesis, the whole construction falls down.
Yeah. So can you use a logical argument that you have a brain?
So far, no.
So far, no.
Die and look into my own
Right.
head, skull.
So all your everyday life, because you must have studied, right, in school and university, wherever, right? And then you never once thought that I may have a brain.
I may have, but it's, as you said,
But you don't
it's
know.
only generalization.
So you don't know.
I've seen a brain in the human skull.
Sure.
I cannot prove that I have the same in my skull. I can just assume that given that it's the higher,
Okay.
the most likely.
Let me ask you another
feature.
very silly question. Are you certain that you exist?
This is an interesting question.
That's what I said. It's an silly, but it's interesting. Are you certain you exist?
No.
You're not certain.
No, maybe as Elon Musk said, we're maybe just a big simulation.
Yeah, it could be a brain in a jar, right?
What kind of way
In a
of thinking
museum, it could be a brain in a jar.
Do you think you sound rational when you say these things?
No, it's not
I
rational.
mean, how can anyone take you seriously when you say these things?
You're ready to say a brain in the jar. For example, okay, this is not reality, but you're not ready to admit.
I mean, do you live your life like this, in oblivious, like you don't know
not,
anything?
Not knowing.
I mean, do you feel good about this, like thinking like this? Is it a good way of thinking?
Does it give you peace and tranquility in your heart? Being that kind of hyper skeptical, does it give you this tranquility in your heart? Who you are, what you hear, what are you doing?
It's because I can build myself on this logical assumption. So far, if you disprove ground hypothesis, I'm just asking for you ground hypothesis that makes you believe.
But you're not certain you exist or not. It could be just an illusion.
Are you certain that
So-
you
so-
exist?
no, so
I've been
I am
answering
certain.
all your questions.
I am
by
certain.
Why?
Yeah. It's not about why, I am certain.
Okay, so,
So-
you were answering question for like 10 minutes now.
Yeah.
No, it's my turn. Why are you sure
Okay.
you exist?
So you want to know.
answer.
So you want to know from me. Hang on. You want to know from me why I'm certain.
I think you couldn't take it.
Next.
Reality was too harsh.
Who's next? Reality was more.
The level of hyper skepticism really, you see, in the everyday life.
That's insincerity.
Exactly.
He
In
knows-
the
he
everyday
knows
life,
very well.
they won't behave with that. Imagine he had a girlfriend or a wife. would we really think that her girlfriend doesn't
Baby,
exist, like
do
he
you
doesn't
really
exist?
exist? So I exist, baby.
Okay, may Allah guide us all, you know. May